Hello, this is Alice Wheaton. Thank you for joining me again today. And what I want to do is I want to check in with you and all of the budding authors or the potential authors or the great writers who want to publish an article but don't quite know how to go about it. The technique I'm going to present to you today is one that I have used for years, and I use it to get my articles published. I have published in several magazines, and the first article I have published was in 1995. I was commissioned by a company to write a series of personal growth articles, around confidence, around speaking, and so on for their employees. And it's interesting that I came across these articles recently, and as I read them, I felt embarrassed because over the years, of course, our skills develop, including mine, but then I realized, you know what, better to do it imperfectly than never do it at all. The truth is that we speak into the lives of others in a lasting way if we're able to present publicly or if we're able to write and publish our articles. Because if we have brilliant ideas but never bring them to execution, it's almost the same as never having had the brilliant ideas anyway. And so bear with me as we walk through the process for writing an article and publishing it. And I'd love to hear back from you about your success. So what is your interest? My interests are a few, actually. One of my interests, of course, was parenting, and I had quite a unique way of parenting in that, for instance, when my son left for school every day, I would say, have a good day, take lots of chances, and question the authority. In addition, when he would ask me for something, I would encourage him not to give up until he'd asked me 5 times. But each time he asked, I needed to be more inspired. So he couldn't just say, can I have it? Can I have this? Can I have this? And so today he's a great negotiator. He is an amazing critical thinker. And the other thing I did for him was at 12 years old, I asked him if he would rather save us some money and buy me a present for my birthday, Mother's Day, and Christmas, or would he rather write me a 1-page article? He chose to write the 1-page article. And as a result of that now, I have a stack of letters that he has written me over the years. Sometimes it's been a rap poem. And even one time, and this is my most cherished one, he cut and pasted from the internet. And so as I read it, I said, oh my goodness, your writing is so improved. There's not a comma missing. Every single modifier has got a comma before or after. You don't have any confused tenses. It's just amazing. And he said, oh, okay, Mom, I got it from the internet and I'll rewrite you. And I said, nope, this is the perfect one. Because you see, my rule is that no matter what he said, that I would not critique it. I would simply say, thank you very much. So that would be an article if I wanted to write it. So what's your interest? And whatever your interest is or your hobby, somebody else would be interested as well. Are you an expert at communication? Are you an expert at marketing? Are you an expert at sales? When I was flying back from Toronto a couple of weeks ago, I met someone who had built solar-powered electric bicycles, and there's a kit for them on the internet. And so what he has done is written several manuals on how to build your own bicycle like that. So it depends on your expertise. And you might think, well, there's lots of electrical engineers around. Anyone could do that. Well, no, you have your own particular spin. So you've heard the old recipe of making speeches. And that, of course, is tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. And the same works true for an article. So if you read an article, for instance, that says 7 steps for lasting health, you could then switch that around and say 7 massive mistakes people make that destroy their health. So having an article from one perspective to another is a great way to get ideas. So in your introduction, let's say you decided to write an article on the massive mistakes people make that destroy their health. Then you would create an introduction with 3 to 5 sentences. And it might go something like this. Yes, we are living longer today than we have ever lived before. But the question that begs to be answered is, why are we living longer, but we're not enjoying the last 15 years of our lives as much as we did in the early 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s? What has happened that gives us a long life, but that doesn't give us the vitality and health to go along with it? Is it something that's in the environment, or is there something that's in our genetics? And so then you might list, and then you might say, and so, well, based on my research and my interest, what I have found is that there's 7 massive mistakes that people make that keep them from living life to the fullest. And one technique is to start out with number 7. A lot of people would start at 1 to 7, but really what you want to do is keep the most juicy one for the last. So the first one you might say is, well, we're actually, over the years, over the 50 years ago, we're actually working more than we did before, and that was before there were labor-saving devices. So people don't relax as much and they don't take as much vacation, so we're working more. And is that because we're living in a competitive society, or because work has become a new addiction? Reason number 6, there are drugs that keep us alive, but they don't necessarily keep us well. And antidepressants and antacids are the 2 most common drugs that are prescribed by our doctors. What does that mean, do you suppose? Well, it appears that stress and the inability to deal with stress actually creates the dis-ease that propagates the acid in our stomach and promotes health. And of course, when we have an unfulfilled life, then people feel depressed and they want to be uplifted without making the changes they need to make. And so the pharmacy is the next solution. Number 5 might be the fact that we are now not really a part of communities. We used to be in a family, in a community, and even in a city, people knew each other. And that is not so much the case anymore. And so is that being disconnected? Does it create a feeling of isolation and a feeling of low self-worth because there is less endorsement from our main family? Number 4 might be our jobs. We're living in a information-based society, and it's competitive, and there's always a race to find out the newest, the biggest, fastest, most wonderful way to do something. And so instead of being apprenticing like we used to, we're expected to know it all as soon as we finish university. And so that competitive race then keeps us from being part of a larger group. And another reason, so number 4 might be the fact that as societies, we have a distributed culture. So if we belong to an Italian family in the 50s and 60s and 70s, oftentimes we lived and we worked and we played with the same culture. And these days there seems to be a great deal of cultural isolation. And number 3 might be the internet. And although the internet is wonderful, what happens is that it keeps us isolated because we get stimulated on many different levels. And so we don't have to be faced with putting in the energy and the work to be amused and entertained. Whereas the stickiness of interpersonal relationships is difficult to endure. At the same time, we don't get the lasting love and touching and kindness that we do. And so it goes. So you may have 5 reasons or 9 reasons or 7 reasons. And you notice that I'm using odd numbers, and the reason is because apparently research shows that when you use an even number, the audience perceives that as either rounded up or rounded down, whereas an odd number seems more authentic. And so I did not do this research myself, but it sounds logical, so I went with it. And so then you summarize. You summarize by 3 or 4 sentences, and you simply say, there seems to be certainly a lack of connection and comfort from core groups of our culture and from families and friends. And when we get together, of course, it is typically just through vacations such as Christmas and other major holidays. And because people move away from home so much, and they might move thousands of miles away, coming to visit used to be just a simple one-day road trip. Now it's an expensive plane trip, and seem not to worth the price, especially if you have a family. And so what should we do then to stay connected? Well, we should be willing to host neighborhood potlucks, for instance, or we make an effort to get to know the people around us. And that means putting yourself at risk, and I don't mean physical risk, but I just simply mean the risk of rejection or risk of not being received. But if connecting with others and having a stronger, more fulfilling personal life is important to you, then you don't need to look any further than across the road or to your left or to your right of your front door. And so there you have. There you have got a typical template of an article. And so when you have that article, what would you do with it? What you would do with it is that you would then call up an editor of a magazine, and that you could submit a blog, put this in the form of a blog, or you could call a parenting magazine or a lifestyle magazine or a personal growth magazine, and then you would say something like this. Hello, my name is Alice Wheaton, and I'm a freelance writer. I'm wondering if you accept and or pay for freelance articles. And if that person would say, yes, we accept articles, but we don't pay for them, then your comment would be, that's fine. I write articles as part of my marketing program. So if you're willing to allow me to put a short bio at the end of my article, I'd like to submit that to you for your consideration. And typically the editor would say, okay, that's fine. Have you printed articles before? And you might say, no, I have not published an article before. This would be my first. And if they say, well, we don't take articles from someone who hasn't we don't have any background, then that's an objection. So you could say, even Stephen King was at the stage where I am today, where I wrote my first article. It's been vetted by several experts, and they tell me that it is excellent content, and my invitation is that you would give 10-15 minutes to consider it. And so when you do forward the information, then you call back up and ask if it would be received. The local newspaper here asked me if I would write one article a month about sales. And so I agreed, but what I did was I wrote 15 articles, and I sent them all at once. And so why did I do that? I did that because I knew other writers procrastinate. And so I sent the 15 articles in all at once. And sure enough, within 2 or 3 weeks, the other writers that were being published the other 3 Sundays of the month missed deadlines. And so what did they do then? They went and they pulled the articles that I had presented to them. And so for 15 weeks, I had an article in that newsletter, and then I resubmitted, and that gave me time then to write new articles and resubmit them. And I had a fantastic result as a result because of that. I was not paid for the articles, even though it was a newspaper, but it gave me great publicity. And so that was what I was mostly interested in. Magazines, newspapers, community newspapers, industry newspapers, they look for they look for new authors, they look for new ideas. And so, personal growth is a big issue right now. Weight loss is a big issue. Financial planning is a big issue. And if you've managed to create a degree of success and wealth for yourself by being a frugal planner, then write an article about that, and you become an instant expert. And the interesting thing is that once you have written 50 articles, and that happens in less than a year, once you have written 50 articles at about 1,000 words each, that is the typical size, or word count of an average book is 50,000 words. And so what happens is that you could then create sections. The first section is on family health, and the next one is on family fitness, and the next one is on family wealth. You have yourself, 4 sections, each with a series of articles, and there you have a book. And so, if you want to write an article and be an expert tomorrow, it might happen. Miracles happen all the time, but they're so unpredictable. But if you plan your articles and have a consistent process for publishing them, then you can expect to have success. So there you have it. I've given you the secrets to writing a very fast article. You can look at an article in the Reader's Digest and do the opposite of what they have done, and that is not plagiarism. If they say 5 fast ways for fitness, you can write an article about the 5 massive mistakes people make when trying to get fit. Like, just as simple as that. And of course, the more you write, the better you become, because as I read my articles that I published, 25 years ago, I am embarrassed to say that they were mine, because they didn't have the same panache and the same degree of, excellence in grammar that I strive for today. Because I never ever took an English course in my life. I was more focused on the sciences. So feel free to share your articles with me, Alice@alicewheaton.com. Bye for now.